The NHL has screwed the Islanders again as the schedule for the 2025-2026 NHL season has been released and it is not looking great for the Islanders. We're going to discuss it on this episode of Islanders Digest, talk about why I am upset about this schedule, and also talk about what the Islanders can look like this season, how competitive this team is going to be. I think this is going to be a really exciting season for the Islanders. I'm really curious to see how this team looks coming out in October. Really quickly, before we get into this schedule, our goal is 2,000 subscribers by the end of the summer. We are inching our way there. Appreciate all the support for those of you who have already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? Now let's talk about what I don't like about this schedule. Now, the NHL schedule is not like the NFL, where you can have a big variance on your season based on who you play. You're pretty much going to play everyone. You're going to play everyone in the division 4 times. Most of the teams in the Eastern Conference 3 times, and then 2 times for all the teams in the Western Conference. My big issue is the Islanders have 16 back-to-back games this season, and I do know that a big part of this is the Olympic break, as we're going to talk about later in this video. The Olympic break is going to be 2 weeks in the middle of February where there's going to be no hockey. Well, no Islanders hockey. There's going to be Olympic hockey, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. I'm really curious to see if any Islanders players make that group, considering while the Islanders might have a shot to make the playoffs, considering they're not really contenders this season, I would actually be really excited to see a lot of Islanders players make the Olympics. Really looking to hopefully see Bo Horvat make Team Canada, even though obviously we will be rooting for Team USA. It would be really nice to see Bo Horvat play with some of the best players in the world. I think there are some other players who have a really good shot. Holmstrom, for example, has a good chance of playing in the Olympics. But because of this Olympic break, you got 16 games that are back-to-backs for the Islanders. And this is a big problem because the Islanders do have a backup goalie concern. We don't know how healthy Varlamov is going to be, and this is 16 games at a minimum that you're going to have to play your backup goalie, and more importantly, it's a game where you're going to have to play your backup goalie against potentially a good team, as it's not going to be a strategic thing where you play Varlamov against a team such as the Sabres. There's a good chance that a lot of these back-to-backs, we're going to be playing a lot of good competitions. Not ideal that there are 16 back-to-backs. And why I think the Islanders got screwed a little bit here is last year they also had a lot of back-to-backs. I understand the schedule is going to be more condensed this season, but there are some teams that have 8 or 9, which is still a lot, but is nowhere near as many as 16. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to pay attention to moving forward. Some other notes on the schedule. There's some games that you're definitely going to want to check out. Brock Nelson will be returning to Long Island on Thursday, December 4th, and I have a feeling he is going to get a lot of cheers. In addition, the Islanders will be playing Noah Dobson, with the Montreal Canadiens coming to New York on April 12th. I have a feeling he is not going to get a lot of cheers. Let me know in the comments what you think the reception for Noah Dobson should be. Me personally, I'm not going to boo him. While I'm not pleased with, some of the comments made after he left, with him seemingly wanting to go to Montreal, the Islanders got a big return for him. This is not like a John Tavares situation. Even if he did force his way out, which I don't really know if he did, the Islanders did great in that trade. So while I'm not necessarily going to be rooting for Noah Dobson, specifically because I don't really love the Montreal Canadiens, and the Montreal Canadiens are likely going to be a team that the Islanders are competing with in the end of the season for a wildcard spot, which we're going to be talking about in just a little bit. So because of that, obviously, not going to be rooting for Noah Dobson throughout the season, because every point the Montreal Canadiens get is going to make the Islanders' job really hard. They're trying to make the playoffs, but I'm not necessarily going to boo Noah Dobson. Also worth noting that Jonathan Drouin will be playing against the Colorado Avalanche at his old home on Sunday, November 16th. If you're a fan who likes to take a road trip, that could be a real fun one. But out of these games, I think I'm most excited to see Brock Nelson's tribute. And then, of course, the Islanders' first face-off with the Rangers, November 8th. And I like that this is November. In previous years, I feel like the games between the Rangers have not been well balanced. You either get like 2 in 1 week, and then for the majority of the year, you don't get any games with the Rangers. I think that is a bit more balanced this year, which is something I am looking forward to. You like to see them play at different points in the season. I feel like when you play a team 2 times really close in the span of like a week or even a month, you're kind of getting the same team. Well, teams really evolve throughout the season. It's fun to see how they play each other as the season goes on. Some other notable things with the Islanders is they're going to have 10 of their last 12 games at UBS Arena. So if this is a team that can push for the playoffs, those last 10 to 12 games are going to be a huge advantage as they try to pick up as many points as possible going down the stretch. I don't think the Islanders are going to be a team that is going to be safe in a playoff spot at any point this season. I do think, and I really do believe this team can make the playoffs, but if they do make it, it's going to be the way they've made it in the past few seasons when they've made it, where it's by the skin of their teeth, just fighting every last game. I think if the Islanders clinch the playoffs, it's probably going to be at the last game of the season, so these last 10 to 12 games could be a point of the year where it's time to buckle up. Also, what's going to be really exciting about those games is assuming that Schaefer does not make the team off the beginning of the season. If he does make the team off the beginning of the year, then you know his first game in the NHL is going to be the first game of the year. But those games, those last 10 to 12 games at UBS Arena, assuming Schaefer does play college, those would be games where potentially if the college season ends, that Schaefer can be playing his first game with the Islanders. And the same thing goes to Cole Eiserman. So that is definitely something to keep a lookout. Another thing we're going to talk about here is home games have been moved from 7:30 to 7. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Personally, I think I actually like the earlier games a bit more. I felt at times games were ending a little late. Even though I am a night owl, it just seemed like a convenient time to end. I feel like 7 is a better time. Also for going to the games, I actually even appreciate more getting home at a more reasonable hour, especially like later on at night. The train service just continues to get worse and worse, and you don't want to be out too late at night. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this in the comments below. It seems like there's a lot of mixed thoughts on the 7 o'clock starts instead of the 7:30. Love to know what you think about that. Looking at the other things worth noting in this season, there are going to be a lot of road trips as this season's since it's being condensed. There's really a lot of times where you're playing a couple quick games. They're not going to be a good amount of rest. Honestly, going to be a rough year for goaltending, which on top of the back-to-backs, it's going to be very important that if not Varlamov, if Rittich is going to have to really step up as a backup goaltender, because this is a year where Sorokin is going to need his rest. I think it's always most important when it comes to these schedules to see the starts of the year and the end of the year. Of course, like the middle is not really relevant. Here you have the AllStar Break, which is definitely going to be not AllStar Break, the Olympic break, which is definitely going to be worth noting. And at least in this break, you're going to be getting good hockey as opposed to the All-Star game, which while it would have been cool to see at UBS Arena, I'm really not too opposed at this point at the Islanders losing the All-Star game. I was upset at the time, but the more I think about it, the All-Star game is just not fun in the NHL, especially compared to the MLB and other leagues. Just not really a good time. This is the first month of the Islanders schedule, and this is going to be really important. As we've talked about, this is an Islanders team where if they are going to make the playoffs, it is going to be a super tough grind throughout the year. I think this team can make it, but especially considering they don't have the super high-end talent in terms of forwards, this is more a team that is built on balance. It's going to be a grind year out, and if the Islanders do make the playoffs, I think it's going to be a ton of 1-goal wins. Hopefully now you have Drew and Shabanov, you can win some more shootout games, which can definitely help down the stretch. And to start the year, the Islanders have a pretty decent home stretch after a game in Pittsburgh, and then they have a few games on the road. Pretty balanced to start the year. Compared to some other teams, there's some teams that are starting this season with 7-game road stretches. Absolutely insane. I kind of like this balance for the Islanders to really get their footing at home before they go on the road. And if the Islanders can get off to a hot start, I think the start is going to be huge, especially in this Metro Division, where I don't think there's any number one cleared team. As we're going to talk about going to the offseason, I think there are some really good teams. I think Carolina is a very good hockey team. I think the Devils, especially with Jack Hughes healthy, are going to be a very good team. The Capitals are still competent. But after that, I think it's going to be a really open Metro division. And if the Islanders can get some points early, really put some pressure on other teams, and also get off to the best start they've had in a really long time. In the past, the Islanders have had a lot of road stretches to start the year, and then it's just all gone downhill from there. And even in the seasons where they've made the playoffs, it's been a fight to get back in. If the Islanders can start strong and really start in a playoff spot and try to hold that, I think that can be really beneficial. I know it's early, but it's just stuff to think about. And then one other thing I want to note is this end of the season, you're going to have a lot of home games to really try to push for the playoffs, assuming they are still in the conversation. And we already talked about they're likely to be getting reinforcements from the prospect pool at this time of year. And I think the Islanders are a team that even if they do sell on the trade deadline, which is going to be March 6th this year, I believe, you can be adding new players. For example, you trade a JG Pajot, you can be adding a Callum Ritchie, you can be adding a Schaefer, and Cole Eisman. And because of that, this is going to be a really interesting team to watch down the stretch, because it might be the best move to add by subtracting. But one thing I do want to note with this schedule to end the year, while you do have a lot of home games, these are not going to be easy games. And one thing I'm really noticing is teams like Toronto, the Ottawa Senators, Montreal are all going to be teams who are likely fighting for playoff positioning down the stretch. I think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to kind of have their seeding figured out, but definitely not going to be easy games to end the season. So while the Islanders are going to have a good chance to make play, and one thing I do like about this end of the schedule is the last 4 games are not back-to-backs. This is definitely not going to be easy, but let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think of the schedule, the 7 p.m. start times at home? And what do you think? Is this Islanders team a playoff team? I think we've had a lot of time to digest both what the Islanders have done this offseason and other teams. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go, Islanders!